Hey gang, welcome in. It's Saturday. This is where we look at all the big stuff that happened during the week. Stories you probably missed, and a lot of goodness. And in the US, it was a Thanksgiving holiday, so it was a pretty quiet week in terms of volume, but still a lot happened, a lot went down. So let's break it all down. The crypto market cap right now is over $3.4 trillion. 2 months ago, it was $2 trillion. Everybody has made a lot of money. Volume is monstrous, despite being a holiday week. $165 billion. Austin Powers. It's a joke. Let me see. Bitcoin price as we speak is about, I think, just under 97K. And everything is cooking along nicely. Fear and greed is 84, still high. Let's get into the story today. Not financial advice, of course. And thank you to everybody on Patreon. First of all, let's look at, we're the last day of the, in fact, we have 4 hours until the monthly close. And it's going to be a crazy monthly close, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at this. Let me pop this up so you can see carefully. Too many windows open. My goodness. This is the monthly return so far. 39%. Too good. Too good to be true. And it's true. And it's going to be almost a record return for the month of November. Last time was this high was 2020. And before that was 2017. And before that, 2013. Average return, by the way, for November is 41.6%. And we're just shy of that. And remember as well, hey, David in Canada, thank you for coming. And thank you to the mods in the chat too. The average return for December, which is always a very good month, Q4 is always outrageously good, is 9.6%. So we are probably going into another strong month. Not as strong as Moonvember, but that's why Moonvember is called Moonvember and not Moonstember. Anywho, let's look at the numbers for the week. The crypto market was very unusual. So all the garbage that has been stagnant for the first half of the bull run all started to move all of a sudden. And it gets people very excited. And you can see here the big dark green ones like FOMO. What the heck is FOMO? Never heard of that before. Toncoin, Dara, Chainlink, Ethereum Classic, Cosmos, Algorand, VeChain, Celestia, all the stuff that wasn't doing very well is now all of a sudden up. Even XRP, 8.67% for the week. Solana down 6%. Ethereum up 3%. This is all benchmarked against Bitcoin, by the way. In dollar terms, you can see Bitcoin pretty much flat for the week. Again, Sol down 6, Ethereum 3. Again, because Bitcoin's flat, it's pretty much the same as the previous chart. But we had a lot of dark green out there in names that simply we'll get to later. They shouldn't be up there at all. Anyhow, it just shows you, I was hoping that the level of knowledge and ability to research tokens would be much higher compared to 2021. And that's not the case. And we're going into the banana zone, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyhow, let's move on. Let's talk about the Solana black hole. Let's look at what happened with Bitcoin and the ETFs, which is a huge part of the story so far this year. You can see red is BlackRock. They continue to stack. And yes, you see a bit of a drop off there because it was a holiday week in the US. So the stock market was closed on Thursday, only a half day on Friday. So it was a very curtailed week. At the same time, BlackRock didn't stop. In addition, there was $100 million sold, a little bit of very light profit taking. Again, nothing too hectic. The overall trend is still up, and we've had the craziest accumulation since day 200. It took 200 trading days, going back to January 11th of this year, for things really to kick off. And as I always say, price is like the best advertisement for Bitcoin. As it starts getting more expensive, people get more interested. It's like the meme, you know, Bitcoin at $16,000, nobody's interested. Bitcoin at $100,000, everybody's running in, and that's just the nature of humans. Reptilian brains. Anyhow, let's look at the amount of Bitcoin that were actually sold this week. We had a kind of outflow of 1,600 Bitcoin. Not a lot, but you saw yesterday, even though it was only a half day, 3,300 were absorbed. So it would have been 4,500 if it wasn't for the big buy from BlackRock yesterday. And that's all she wrote. Again, it'll be quiet, but I do expect next week to be much better, kicking off December. So that's the ETFs. Now, some new price target news. Dan Morehead, he's an OG in the space, and I have a lot of respect for him and his firm Pantera. But he predicted that Bitcoin could reach 740,000 by April 2028. Remember, we're in 2025. That's basically 3 years, 5 months from now. 740K. That's nearly an 8x from where we are today. And he's been spot on. Again, he's been in Bitcoin since 2013, if I'm not mistaken, with a fund. And again, Pantera know what's up. And there's a lot of other bullish price targets as well. So let's look forward to this. Also, Tom Lee believes Bitcoin could hit $250,000 a Bitcoin in 2025. And he's very bullish, but he's also very good, particularly in stock market stuff. He did have some predictions in 2021 that fell by the wayside, but that's because it was a manipulated season as well. So bear that in mind. And the ETFs Soon will have a larger bag than Satoshi. Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious Bitcoin founder, holds 1.1 million of the asset. That's 1.1 million Bitcoins. I actually have a record of 1.04 million, but some people round it up. Somewhere between 1.04 and 1.1 million across a couple of wallets. And that is over $105 billion in today's value. But by end of 2024, we expect Wall Street to replace Satoshi as the top Bitcoin wallet. And that's what Bernstein said as well. Again, these ETFs are in so-called Pac-Man mode. They're just gobbling it all up like crazy. And let's look at some on-chain data right now to see what the setup is like for December, considering where we've come from in November. And remember, we always have to look at the long-term holders because they are very clever. They've been around for a long time. And they tend to dump first, so you have to keep a very close eye on them. So let's check in on this from James Van Straten. Here you can see what he did was he aggregated all the cohorts, including ETFs, Bitcoin miners, and exchanges. And basically 87,000 Bitcoin have been net accumulated over the last 30 days. And that tells JVS that long-term holders are slowing down their profit-taking of coins. And that's over 400,000 in the last 30 days. And any long-term holder that wanted to take profit near $100,000 has done so. That's the good news. So many are still holding, and I've got other data to back that up too. Now, on top of all this, the short-term holders capitulated on the 10% correction. Remember, I shared the panic selling slide a few days ago? And the net point here, all you need to know is the demand for Bitcoin far outstrips the supply, okay? Far outstrips it. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. Been looking at on-chain data for a long time. I've never seen a setup like this. Let's look at some more. We have liquidity. I did debunk some liquidity stuff in Octa last week, but this is from Cointelegraph. A lot of people are still talking about liquidity. I don't think it's a driver. I think supply and demand is the driver. Anyhow, liquidity does help, but new Bitcoin liquidity index points to $110,000 local Bitcoin top in January 2025. So that bodes well for us to get to, because it lags typically 75 days, so people believe. Now, I have my chart for liquidity, and I'll show you something positive too. This is my view of liquidity versus Bitcoin. Liquidity is in yellow, Bitcoin is in blue. And you can see here, yes, we've had times when liquidity went up and Bitcoin went down. Liquidity was flat, Bitcoin chopped sideways, liquidity shot up, Bitcoin didn't do anything until 3 months later. It all depends. But this year, again, this is only the last 12 months. So when you go back further, you'll see there is no exact correlation between liquidity and Bitcoin price. However, what is important is that liquidity is spiking hard once again. We've gone from about 91 trillion to about 93 trillion just in a week. So liquidity is back. And that could help people saying, oh, liquidity's dead, therefore Bitcoin's going to fall to $60,000. No, it's back. And liquidity will continue to be back. That's what fiat does. Now, this is a cool little piece from Carl B. Menger. It takes 40 years to mine the last Bitcoin. That means if you are a whole coiner, your children and grandchildren, if they smart, will inherit the equivalent of 40 years worth of energy to secure the Bitcoin network. Nobody is prepared for this. I want people to take time. So when you see it like this, when you really understand the importance of whole coinership that I've been stressing since 2017, this really puts it in perspective like I've never seen. 40 years to mine the last Bitcoin. That is from the year 2080 to 2120 or 2140. Maybe the year 20. I got to zoom in on this. Make sure I get it right. The last Bitcoin will be mined. Yeah, 2100 to 2140. So again, call it 75 years from now. The 40 years following that will be how long it takes to mine the last Bitcoin. Therefore, whole coinership is so important. Don't lose it. Have one per child, like I've also always stressed, and make sure they don't ever spend it. Borrow against it, which is now becoming a more common thing to do. Now, this is from the Kabasi letter. Demand for Bitcoin is going through the roof. There is now record-breaking open interest. This is from the CME Bitcoin futures, and they've surpassed 40,000 for the first time ever, indicating unprecedented demand. And that's the doubling of outstanding contracts since the start of the year, start of 2024. And the total number of outstanding contracts back then was, I think, 17,000 or 18,000. And if you go back to the previous bull run in 2021, we are 58% higher than that as well. So all-time high market cap, all-time high demand for futures, very, very bullish setup. And the Bitcoin market cap now is $1.94 trillion. Again, nothing but goodness out there. We're not done, and there's a lot more to go. Also, a little bit of perspective from Ki Young-ju. 2 years ago today, Bitcoin was $16,000. It did dip as low as $15,500. And that's when people in Patreon were stacking. And back then, the market was drained. The economy was tough. Everybody was terrified, thought the world was going to end. Everybody thought Bitcoin was going back down to 9,000, 3,000, etc. A lot of so-called experts saying, "Oh, I'm going to wait till it hits 9,000, or I'm gonna fill my boots at $3,000." And again, that never happened. But if you've held on to Bitcoin through it all, you're incredible. Cheers to all the folks out there. Now, that basically in perspective, to go from 15.5 to nearly 100K, that's a 7x, ladies and gentlemen. 7.2x, in fact. Crazy, crazy returns just in 2 years. Just in 2 years. And more predictions for Bitcoin price based on-chain. Bitcoin's top price target, again from Crypto Quant, is $146,000 based on realized price valuation. And these two bands historically have worked flawlessly. But maybe this time is different because on-chain is changing. The ETFs shook everything up. And now we have Bitcoin Treasuries, which I'll talk about in a minute too. But here we go. 146K would not be bad at all. Again, 146K, as a reminder, is nearly a 10x from the bottom, which is crazy considering how mature this asset is. Anyhow, whales, back to some more on-chain stuff. Are they buying or selling? Well, whales are not selling their Bitcoin yet. If you can compare to previous cycles, these are bag holders with more than 1,000 Bitcoin. They are actually accumulating. And this couple did sell a little bit. If you look at the previous cycles, 2017, 2020, 2023, nothing like the selling that happened in the past. So the good news is this means they are not ditching. That means we are heading higher, especially considering the demand that's coming from other places. And this is a bit silly in my opinion. I do believe in betting markets, but Polymarket now is only at 72% chance that Bitcoin will hit 100,000 in 2024. Like literally we were $1,500 away from that yesterday, I think, or the day before. And we already hit 99,780. So we're $200 away from 100K. I think this is where it gets a bit silly. Anyway, I definitely think we're going to hit $100,000 in December. So we'll see. But nothing is sure in this life. We'll see. Now, Vivek as well is showcasing the supply shock coming. Bitcoin balance on exchanges just hit an all-time low, down from about 2.75 million down to, what was that, 2.25 approximately. The point is, many people still hold their Bitcoin on exchanges. That's where they store them. So even though there may be a little over 2 million on exchanges, doesn't mean they are for sale. And for the MicroStrategies of the world and all the treasuries that are coming to fill their boots, they better go fast because supply shock is coming. And yes, I intentionally wrote the supply with a $sign to show you that it is very good for price action too. The whole game is supply and demand. Don't overcomplicate it. Also, lots more room to run. This is the MVRV Z-score. It compares Bitcoin's market cap or price multiplied by the circulating supply with its realized cap, which you saw before. And this is the average price at which Bitcoin was last transacted. Historically, the metric signals overheated when markets enter the red zone. You notice something there? We are nowhere near the red zone. We're at about just under 3 score right now. And we have a long way to go to get to 7 before we need to be concerned. So, in the meantime, hold tight. Again, I should have called this movie Long Way to Run. Early days yet. And Booya Kasha. This is... Booya Kasha is an old reference to an old movie. But this is Booya Interactive. But I called it Booya Kasha. That way I can remember it. They flipped their Ethereum bag into Bitcoin. And they are now the largest holder of Bitcoin in Asia after number 2, Metaplanet. Again, this I can't overstate how large these treasuries are becoming out there. Every corporation is stacking hard because they know what happens. Now, speaking of Ethereum, this was also a bit of a stunning chart from Check on Chain. USDT transaction dominance on Ethereum has fallen from 78% 4 years ago to just 6.8% today. And now it's all on Tron. We'll talk a bit about Tron in a minute too. But that is, again, another signal that all is not well in ETH land. Not only do we have Booya Kasha ditching their ETH bag and moving to Bitcoin. A little bit late, by the way. They should have done that a long time ago. Anyhow, better late than never, as you always say. Also, speaking of treasuries and Booya Kasha, this is just a piece of the list. Every day, if you look at the bottom, you've got Genius Group. They just added to their Bitcoin a week or so ago. And the other big names are there. You got the top 4, MicroStrategy. You got Marathon. You got Riot. Obviously, 2 and 3 are miners. And then you got Tesla, number 4. Coinbase, number 5. Hut 8, 6, another miner. CleanSpark, 7. Block, a payments company, number 8, etc. So it's kind of crazy. The point is, we are so early. And these Bitcoin treasuries, just on this list alone you see here, have 508,000 Bitcoin. Okay, and that is a scratch of the list of corporations. There are 33 million companies around the world, just a very, very select few. And they already have over 500,000 Bitcoin. And it's early days yet. Early days too. And speaking of the biggest holder of treasuries, Michael Saylor, he says, "Come and short me, ladies and gentlemen." And it's from Vivek. Again, Michael Saylor is now actively encouraging traders to short MicroStrategy, and he promises he won't sell Bitcoin. The man is about to create the greatest gamma squeeze in the history of finance. I've been talking about this gamma squeeze myself for quite a while, and it's happening. And I'll tell you the catalyst that's going to drive it too. This, okay, first, you've got Michael Saylor, apparently is heading to Redmond, I think, in December. But he once again said Microsoft can make the next $1 trillion by investing their treasury in Bitcoin. It's about time. Remember, it's an absolute no-brainer. But companies are very conservative. They think, what happens if it goes to 0? Then I'm going to look really stupid. So I'd rather play it safe. But those companies that aren't playing it safe are names like this. Okay? And there's going to be more and more of them as well. Whether Microsoft joins or not, it doesn't matter. The supply will be gobbled up, no doubt about that. And Michael Saylor's bag is going vertical. Shout out to Econometrics. If you believe prices are heading up and you can still raise cash with excessive leverage, front-loading your position will maximize long-term performance. That's the gambit that MicroStrategy is playing. It's a scarcity play. That's why MicroStrategy has deployed so much capital in such a short time this year, just over the past couple of weeks. And if their timing is right, they're positioned for substantial gains. You know, everything I've just pointed to so far in this video is bullish, 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 supply crunch, bullish targets. It's all crazy bullish. We're going a lot higher. But there's another catalyst too, which is a big one. And I've been talking about this for a little while, but MicroStrategy apparently will be added to the NASDAQ 100, according to Jeff Park, head of alpha strategies at Bitwise. And they know what's up. Bitwise is a crypto native firm. And they say inclusion is secured as MicroStrategy undergoes review today for addition to the NASDAQ 100. And the final decision will be announced, I think, about 5 days before the 20th, which would be December 15th, maybe the 13th. And they've got all the boxes are checked from this list here for the committee. And the good thing about the NASDAQ 100 is they don't have emotions or feelings like the S&P 500. There's no committee. It's just rules. It's a rules-driven platform, which is great. So my money is on MicroStrategy being added, and I have begun modeling the impact of that on the price of MicroStrategy. If anybody wants to see, let me know below. I'm doing it personally for myself anyway. So, and I share everything. And Bernstein came out from the block. They said MicroStrategy is on course to acquire 4% of the world's Bitcoin by the end of 2030, approximately. And they have raised their end of 2025 price target to $600. Remember, we're almost in 2025, so we have another year or so, and they've already hit 550, so getting to 600 isn't a big stretch. But anyhow, you'll see they talked about their $42 billion capital raise for Bitcoin acquisitions in the next 18 to 36 months. I believe they're going to blow through that a lot sooner because the demand is insatiable, especially on the bond side. And they believe that Bitcoin is in a sustained bull market supported by favorable regulatory conditions, U.S. government backing under the current incoming administration, and this will just only grow institutional adoption further. And then we have a macroeconomic backdrop of low interest rates, inflation risks, record fiscal debt. All roads lead to Bitcoin. It's not hard, and the MicroStrategy debt is long-term, unsecured convertible debt, implying there is negligible risk to its balance sheet liquidity despite Bitcoin's volatility. Saylor knows how to manage risk. That's all you need to know. So anyway, Raoul Pal talks about the banana zone next steps. And he says the banana zone wasn't such a stupid idea. Plenty more to come over time with plenty of sharp corrections along the way. Strap in. Now, if you look at these historical charts, you do go up like the 2012, 2013, straight up 2016, a couple of jagged spots in the banana zone. So be careful there. Sometimes they're very short-lived, and the whole period itself can last about 6 months. So expect volatility and a lot of fun. Our bags are packed. Now, let's talk about crypto. Solana now does 7x more fees than Ethereum. That is pretty nuts just in 24 hours. Literally, the 800-pound gorilla that did everything is no longer doing everything. Like I mentioned before, with having a complete dominance in stablecoins, now 6% of transactions. And XRP has been on fire, this thing, and all the XRP army are rejoicing. What's going on? But according to a analyst, let me try to remember who it was. I feel bad. Anyway, there was, I forget the name of the analyst, but some very renowned analyst did say that a lot of this pump in XRP, not only is it due to the election results and the new administration coming in, but also the resignation of Gary Gensler. That helped a lot. And a potential legal resolution of the ongoing court cases between Ripple and the SEC could be dismissed under a Trump administration, especially as Gary Gensler walks out of the office on the 20th of January. I think the analyst is Martin, and he warns that this was a leverage-driven pump, and 37% increase in XRP futures open interest shows you that it is heavy leverage that's driving this price up. So if you're there, be careful. Either way, lots of fun for the XRP folks out there. And enter Mert. He talks about how XRP could flip Solana he sees this as extremely bullish because he could not ask for a better example of Sol being drastically undervalued. And yes, per all my models, I agree. It is by far the most undervalued blockchain for what it does. The fees it generates, the NFT activity, the DEX activity, the stablecoin transaction volume, you name it, the TVL, drastically undervalued, which is good. And let's talk about some stocks for a second. We did talk about MicroStrategy, but EV players, Tesla still tops the list so far in 2024. This is the list of the battery electric vehicle global sales, January to the end of September. And Tesla has 1.3 million cars, BYD 1.169 million, and then Geely about 507. Apparently Geely is in some hot water, or is it SAIC? One of them anyway are having some struggles from a financial perspective. You go down the list. Volkswagen's up there, 506,000. But again, Tesla still wins. But Tesla's not a car company. Remember that. Just like X is not a social network. It's now a news organization that's killing media. But this was an interesting piece too. First of all, X is killing media. That's where everybody now goes for their news. And now Grok could have the potential to uncover all corrupt judges next. Shout out to Sanjay as well for sharing this with me. This is from Doge Designer. Elon Musk has just confirmed that with Grok 3, they are adding all court cases to the training set. And Grok will be able to render extremely compelling legal verdicts and tell you if or if not your judge is corrupt. Imagine that. Imagine all the cases that'll be unwound. Again, AI is now shining a light on truth in the legal system, which is awesome. Very exciting. Speaking of legal system and choking out people and warfare and all that stuff, this was the week where we found out that Choke Point 2.0 was very real. Very real. So this was Mark Andreessen, I think. And he spoke on the Joe Rogan podcast, or was it Lex? I don't remember. One of them anyways, so many. But it was brilliant. I saw segments of it. But he spoke about how 30 tech founders were secretly debanked, many of them completely related to crypto. No warning, no explanation, no appeals, no whatever that due diligence is of the legal system. Pure, silent government power. And they also said that Elizabeth Warren runs the organization. And apparently that's how she made $80 million in 10 years. By silencing potential competitors to incumbent financial services companies. Think about that for a second. That is stunning. And as I always say, the truth always floats to the top. You just have to wait sometimes. And other backup point, this is from Ryan Sean Adams. I'll add my debanking story. I was debanked by Bank of America in 2019 for sending transactions to Coinbase and operating a Cosmos staking as a service company. Just a Dear John letter, no explanation, and basically shut it down or we'll screw you like a gun to the head. He had to shut it down. So that's the power of this choke point stuff. That's been in operation for a long time. And we called it choke point 2.0 about 2 years ago, but apparently it's been around for longer than that. And good news too, which could help prevent choke point 2.0s in the future, is the incoming administration eyes CFTC. That's the Commodity Regulatory Authority to lead digital asset regulation. And this move would be a significant step in providing regulatory clarity for crypto because you know what? The SEC didn't do diddly squat except for punish people without any reason. The Dear John letter, as RSA just said. And again, there's so much corruption out there. I'm just happy to see the back of it all. Speaking of the big C, Nancy is killing it. In 2021, Nancy Pelosi was asked if Congress should be banned from trading stocks. Her response is no, this is a free market. But you know what she has? She's got access to the best insider information you could ever have working at the government. She's been working for 37 years and has amassed a wealth of $263 million. Wow. Wouldn't it be nice to have that information? Anyway, that all needs to stop. That's unfair. And speaking of another piece of interesting news, For the gold bugs, China just discovered a massive $83 billion gold reserve in Hunan province, China, which will add to the world's gold supply. And trust me, the Chinese will dig it up because they like their gold. But meanwhile, Bitcoin, the digital gold, remains capped at 21 million forever, and I believe 5 million of those are lost. And scarcity matters. Hardness matters. Make the smart choice. There could be asteroids up there with tons of gold, many people believe too. And who knows what else is under the surface. And a final good vibe reminder for the weekend. Remember the toxic 2%, as I refer to them. An athlete won't judge you for working out. A millionaire won't judge you for starting a business. A musician won't judge you for trying to sing a song. It's always the people going nowhere who have something to say and try to drag you down. Don't let them. Extricate the toxic 2% from your life, and you'll be much more successful. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. That felt like a long one, but it was over half an hour. Good. Just half an hour. I don't want to take too much of your time on this holiday weekend. Thank you all for coming. Hit the like. You got over 6,000 people watching live. Thank you, Sean Donnelly. Thank you, TND Tesla, Ben Hart. The whole gang are here. Love you all. See you tomorrow for the Q&A. 12 noon, so 22 hours from now. I'll be back. I'm going to go work on that now. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.